Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday. It's Friday already. Holy cow, that came so fast this week. It seems like it was just Monday, a minute ago, just a minute ago. Holy cow, so much has happened in the past week that I've got a lot to get to. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of it. Let's see how much we can actually get to. But hey, chat, come on over. Let's get in here. Hey, welcome back, everybody. For those that are just new to the channel, I mean, there's a whole lot of you this week, a whole lot of new people to the channel. This is the Friday night live stream. Every week I do videos on Monday through Friday, in the mornings and in the evenings, and then on Fridays I do a special live stream. And this is to give back to the audience, give back to the community, and be able to hear your voices, hear what you guys have to say. And we talk for about 2 hours. It's fun because we can get into some of the more nuanced things about some of these stories that we go over on the channel. And it's great. It's Friday. Yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday already. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But this is, this is the usual format. So if you're new to the channel, get used to it because I'm pretty consistent about this stuff. So welcome aboard. I know a bunch of Argentines coming in this week after making that video about, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Javier Milei. He's the new El Presidente in in Argentina. They need a new one in Venezuela, that's for sure. In Argentina, and he's libertarian, and he's very much fighting for the right cause over there. You have to understand their history. They've had socialism creeping in since the 1940s, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse as you watch their economy drop, and they're in a state of hyperinflation, and they're very happy to have a libertarian president at the moment. He's getting rid of a lot of the bureaucracy, a lot of the vampiric government that's basically choking out the people in Argentina. So we're hoping to see something like that come to Canada. We're hoping for that. I know our guy right now that's looking to take out Justin Trudeau is Pierre Poilievre, and let's hope he can move over to the side of liberty. I know he says a lot of the nice things. Let's hope he actually follows through with a lot of that. But we'll see. We'll see. PP for PM. Yeah, that's right. A lot of people are cheering for him. As I've said many times on the channel, you'll never see me pull out any pom-poms. As soon as the Conservatives get in, because it's a shoo-in, it looks like they're going to win the next election. We'll see by how much. But it's our job now to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're doing all the things that they're promising to do in the here and now. This is the whole idea. This is about moving the goalpost over because it's been pushed so far to the left over decades and decades that this is where we're at. Trish Prue, member for 15 months. Has it been 15 months already, Trish? Crazy. Hit that like button, everybody. Yes, absolutely. Hit that like button. It is very helpful to the channel. What it does, actually, is it sends a signal. It sends a little magical signal out through the interwebs on YouTube, through the algorithmic fun, and it tells other people that like things along the same lines as you what you're liking, and it gives a signal to YouTube. Other people might be liking this kind of content but never heard of this channel before, so you hit that like button. Every time you do, it gives a little vote. It's like voting with your dollars, right? Voting with your likes, and it tells the rest of the community on YouTube, hey, this guy over here is pretty good, come check him out. And it helps out so much, and it's free, it's easy to do. Hit that like button. But let's get into some of this stuff, because holy cow, what a week, and it's going to be a great week this coming week. In fact, I'm going to be going to Calgary on Tuesday night, flying out to Calgary. I'll tell you about that in 1 second. Rhonda Davey with a $5 super chat. Hit the like and check your subscriptions. YouTube censoring brutal this week. I didn't know that, but yeah, check your subscriptions. Make sure you haven't been unsubscribed. One thing to make sure to do too is if you hit that subscribe button, go click somewhere else on the page. Sometimes you'll hit spacebar or enter or something, and it'll just automatically like undo the thing that you just did. It just hits it. You might want to tab away from that. So it's just a thing. like that. Dawn of the Net, everyone knows Clyde. Not everybody knows me, but you know, I get recognized. We're gonna get over that. We're gonna talk about that in a sec. Actually, why don't we just jump right into that? It's a funny thing. I was ootin' a boot, as they say here in Kazakhstan, and Aaron bumped into me, and I was happy to see. It was funny. I just popped out of a gas station. I was at work. I was going to get some fuel for a car that was broke down, and yeah, this guy says Clyde, and calls me over, and I was like, yeah, hey, what's up? I'm not some weirdo like that don't like to be approached. I actually love this when people say hi to me and all that. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, if you see me on the street and you want to say hi, feel free, say hi, come shake my hand. I love shaking your hands. That's the whole point here. So it was great. It was a great time. Very nice. Bro got out of his car in -5 to take a photo with this schmuck, and did it while he was working. So selfish. We support you, Clyde. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's awesome. This stuff warms my heart. I really do appreciate it. It's great. But as well, I'll be in Calgary coming up, and Marty and I we're gonna try to do a meet and greet. So at some point in Calgary, we're probably in the downtown area, and I'm not touchy-feely, believe me. I'm not all that. But that's from the comments here for anyone who's watching this afterwards. What was I gonna say? Yeah, we're gonna try to do a meetup for anybody who wants to come hang out, have a beer, whatever. Marty and I don't know who else is gonna be on board. We got star-studded gas. It's gonna be awesome, actually, to go see Tucker Carlson, of course. And I'm going to get back to what he was actually replying to in a second here. But Tucker Carlson is going to be in Calgary, and he's also going to Edmonton. There's going to be an event in Edmonton. Their overflow was immense. They couldn't fit all the people that wanted to go see him in Calgary, so he's doing another one in Edmonton at a big place. I don't know, the Rogers place. Is that where the Oilers play? I don't know. But nonetheless, yeah, there's a bunch of people that want it shut down. They want to shut it down. That's the left. It's crazy. And I mean, is it really a left-right thing? It's just woke people, woke crazies want to shut this guy down for saying stuff that makes sense. I mean, the whole concept of like, the battles of ideas, right? You put your ideas out there. If your ideas suck, they'll just get squashed anyway. They'll just get squashed. It's always the people who have bad ideas that are always trying to squash the other side because the stuff's making too much sense and a lot of people are coming along to it. If you have great ideas, why do you need to squash the other side? Just convince them. Absolutely, that's the way it is. But yeah, a bunch of people are trying to cancel Tucker Carlson. It's not gonna happen. More people want to see Tucker than want him to be canceled. And yeah, okay, we're gonna sign a signature to stop people from going to see a guy that wants to speak to a bunch of people that want to hear him speak. Yeah, where's the liberty in that? Where is the liberty in that? These are people who call themselves liberals. For my friends that are tuning in tonight from Argentina, it's a weird thing that the language is so backwards in English. The liberals are not liberal in the sense of classical liberal. I consider myself a classical liberal, like in the sense of Thomas Paine or Benjamin Franklin, that kind of liberal. But these guys, no, it's very illiberal. You kind of get used to this Orwellian speak that we speak here in Canada and also in the United States. It really is crazy. The super chat from David Edwards for $5. Hey, Clyde, you should do a live stream for the Strickland fight tomorrow. Obviously not the entire card, but the main card starts at 10 p.m. Eastern. I can get banned from YouTube for doing that. Not gonna lie, it's a very strict policy that they have that you don't restream pay-per-view, especially events, that kind of thing. I wouldn't want to risk my everything that I've been working at for something like that. And I get it. I totally get it. Strickland, we're cheering for that guy. We're gonna go over some of that in this live stream tonight. Hopefully, if we have some time. And not to forget, we also have a great guest. David Zang from China Insider is joining tonight. I've been really looking forward to this one. I've been following his channel for some time, and if you've never heard of China Insider, you have to go subscribe to that channel. He keeps you up to date on what's going on inside China, about China, a lot of the Taiwan stuff. This guy's very much liberty oriented, which the Chinese Communist Party obviously is not, but you know, I don't know. Well, we'll have to discuss this because, you know, the Communist Party has been getting involved over here in Canada, and it's become a problem. So we're definitely going to be talking about that with David Zang later in the show. But for the first bit, we're going to be talking about other stuff over here. We got another super chat from Utaka. Utaka for $5 says, when you try to silence the truth, it only becomes amplified. But buy yourself a wobbly pop, Clyde. Well, thank you. I will. I've been laying off the wobblies for this month. I overdid it on Christmas on purpose so that I could have a whole month off of the wobblies. It's a January thing. You do January, no wobbly pops, but it's not gonna last the whole January because obviously I'm going to Alberta, and well, we're gonna be meeting up with friends, and wobbly pops ensue. That's the thing. David Edwards with a $5 super chat. You don't stream the actual fight, you talk while it's on, and we watch on our own at the same time. I hadn't considered that. That's kind of like a silent disco almost. Silent disco, where you all listen to your own music and everybody dances. That's an interesting concept. I hadn't considered it. I suppose I might consider that. That's the thing. Weekends are crazy though, and I do have family in town, so I'm trying to make plans around that. So we'll have to absolutely see about that. But thank you so much for the suggestion, and thank you for the super chat. Big cheering for him, of course. And again, we'll get into that. I want to talk about a few other things as we get on with this. There's so much to talk about this week. Of course, Donald Trump Jr. getting into this. Dan Deman 996 with a $2 super chat. Clyde, love your channel. Much love from Ontario. Thank you so much, Dan. Dan Deman. Thank you so much. David Edwards with another $2 super chat. That's how the MMA channels do it. I didn't know that. I had no idea. I like watching MMA. I don't follow it super closely, but I really enjoy it. It's something else because like people like watching street fights and stuff. I don't. I'd rather watch professionals do it. It's kind of brutal to watch amateurs like swinging at each other, haymaker. Yeah. Anyway, I like watching the pros. I used to watch a lot of Pride and K1, as well as some UFC back in the day, and I should watch more of it. I really should. I used to go to the bars that would play it, and that's it. I just don't buy the pay-per-view events myself. JB24 with the 149 super chat burger. I like that. Thank you. I could always go for a burger. 149, isn't that the JBCs? That's the ticket right there. Let's get into this. Canada is jailing journalists, locking up peaceful protesters, forcing fealty to insane gender ideology, barely penalizing, I'm not saying that word out loud in YouTube, and countless other ridiculous totalitarian policies. They may want to sit this one out. This is The Hill talking about almost 2/3 of Canadians say U.S. democracy can't survive another Trump term. What does that even mean? When journalists get on the horn and say, they're literally saying, you know, it may be difficult for democracy if the will of the people is heard and Donald Trump wins an election. Can you be serious? Can you actually be serious? It would be terrible for democracy if they vote for the guy legitimately and he wins, that would be bad. You know, like, you can't do that. I don't get these journalists. They're really, really horrible these days. It's awful. So yeah, of course, Donald Trump Jr. calling him out on it. What do you even say to that? Like, I don't even know. So I I saw this picture today on Twitter, and I screen grabbed it, and I said, you know, this is a good call here, because the only time Americans will see this map covered on TV, covered in blue in 2024 will be when reporting the weather. Absolutely, when reporting the weather, because it looks like there's gonna be a lot of red hitting that map in the next over the next year. It's gonna be pretty crazy if we see what happened in the Iowa caucus. Of course, they're not congratulating the guy. Like, a landslide victory like never seen before. Iowa caucus for the GOP, which is the Grand Old Party, the Republicans, elected Donald Trump over 50%, which has never been seen, in all 99 counties. Every single county voted him in. It's insane. And now we're in a situation where we might see Vivek Ramaswamy, which I'm a big fan of the stuff that he says. He sounds great. He talks about a lot of good stuff. It looks like he's coming on to Trump's camp, endorsing Trump. Would it be something else to see a Vice President Ramaswamy on the ticket with Donald Trump? Let them call him a racist after that, right? Absolutely. I think that would be pretty cool. I think that would be really good. Of course, VP, but he would always make a good press secretary. But press secretaries don't have any sway or say. I mean, yeah, of course. But this is the thing. Trump Tucker. Yeah, no, we need Tucker in the media world. Just like I shouldn't be a politician. I should stay in the media camp, because I feel like I serve more of a purpose here than I would in politics, at least for now. That's absolutely for sure. Unless Canada needs a Javier Milei, that would be me. Obviously, I'm very much in line with Milei, less in line with the Conservatives, of course. But you know, we have to go in the direction that it's going, unless you're crazy and you want to throw your votes away. That's my opinion on that. But let's get into some of this stuff, because this actually, I wanted to say that one piece. I had it lined up. I wanted to say my bit on that thing. Hold on, I gotta find it now. I had that picture up. That's right. Oh, Steve's Hyde with a $5 super chat. A lot of criticism of Trump by the Democrats sound like projection. They think he'll ban people from running while trying to stop him from running. I know, it's retarded. Like, I know a lot of people, they think Trump's a bad guy, but then you look back. Okay, he was president for 4 years. There was no new wars. The economy was great. He had sensible economic policies. Yeah, he made mistakes. He trusted bad people, and yeah, that's the thing. But who else has done that? No new wars. That's amazing for me. I really can't stress that one enough. No new wars. I extremely disagree with taxpayer dollars going to disassemble humans on the other side of the planet. I don't care what their problem is. You know, other countries need to solve their issues. They need to figure out what's going on with their situations. Instead, we're displacing those people, and then we're importing them over here, and then their regional conflicts are happening here. We don't need that. No. And you know what? I'm all for people who want to escape crappy places, come here, emigrate here, become Canadian, identify as Canadian, and leave that stuff behind, and then be great people, because we want to welcome those people in. Absolutely. That is where we should be in this world. But we're not going to take people in where they don't identify or don't want to be Canadian. We're going to get into that in just a moment, because I think that's ludicrous. It's just not. It's appalling. Robert McFallon with the $10 super chat. The best journo mechanic in the business. I might be the only one. I might be the only one, my man. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Philip Ontikos, I hope I pronounced that correctly, with the $10 super chat. Philip, say something in the chat if you want. I really appreciate the super chat, but yeah, if you want to say something in there, in case you hit enter like too quickly and it went through, let me know. But thank you so very much. Thank all of you. You guys are great. You guys are fantastic. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So if Trump's the guy that's not going to bring any more wars, you got my vote. I mean, and I am an American citizen, by the way. So people people that are like, stop butting into the American politics. Why you got to do? I am an American citizen. I have a right to vote in the United States. I'd rather Javier Milei than Javier Trudeau. Yeah, Trudeau's got to go. I disagree. He started in an insurrection and people died. Are you for real, Clyde? Is that a serious question? All I gotta say is, like, okay, we all know how the media loves to swing things, and they love to change the reality of a situation. We all saw it through the Freedom Convoy. A lot of people joined the channel because of my reporting on that situation. Tucker Carlson, he got fired for showing the footage of that. What was it, the guy who the shaman, the Jan 6 shaman. When they found the footage of him actually being guided through the Capitol by the Capitol Police, showing him where to go. Yeah, I know, the insurrection. So you're talking about a bunch of people in the United States that are well known for toting guns. They love their guns. They love their liberty. They love their Independence Day. They love all the things, pew, 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 stereotypes. Now, if it was an insurrection and you have a bunch of people that love guns and are ready for that, why did none of them bring guns? I'm still wondering. I'm still wondering the answer to that question. But if you got an answer for it, if you got an answer for that question, let me know in the comments. Let me know. Cutter50 with the $27.99 super chat. Really appreciate what you and Marty contribute by bringing some real news into our lives. You are now our most trusted news source. Please have a drink on us in Calgary. Thank you so much, Cutter50. I really appreciate that. That is amazing. Holy cow. That's great. Thank you. And yeah, I will have a good one. And I'll let Marty know that, because I'm sure Marty will be thrilled to hear that as well. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. SRT Bull with a $50 super chat. Thank you very much for your generosity. That's very generous of you. Thank you. Trump 2024 and hashtag Pierre for PM ASAP. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we got a Trump Pierre ticket North America in 2024? What would that be like if it all went that direction? Mother effing mic drop, Clyde. What, over the comment about why the gun people never brought guns to the insurrection? Yeah. I'm assuming that's what you're getting about. But yeah, yeah. Ugh. Yeah, that would probably worst insurrection ever. Worst by people who own firearms. But anyway, let's get into so there was how do I even get into this one? I think I'll loop back to this. Let's get into the immigration topic, because when we're on Trump and all this stuff. So they want to label Pierre Poilievre Donald Trump, and this is why I think Pierre is so shy about talking about immigration, even though immigration is probably our biggest topic right now. And of course, it's housing. Of course, housing's a big issue. But why is housing an issue? Well, yes, poor economic incentives, really bad economy, low interest rates for way too long, all of this stuff, yes. But how about the millions of people coming into this little tiny country every year? Every single year. It's crazy, absolutely ludicrous. Let's get into this. So we have this video from Wall Street Silver. 2.5 million immigrants expected in 2024 in Canada. Why that number? Hold on. There's an explainer. Now, the official immigration is 500,000 people, 500,000 people they're expected to bring in per year. But that's just the official, like, we're gonna bring these people. No, there's other ways of getting people in where the root cause is student and temporary workers. Now, I had Darshan on the other week, and I posted that on Monday as well. If you haven't seen that episode, really, really encourage you to watch it. It's an hour and a half long, but it's great, and I think that needs to be. You need to see that. I don't know how to stress that enough. Anyway, here's a video talking about the immigration calculation here.
2.5 million immigrants expected for 2024. If the pace of immigration continues from Q4 of 2023 into 2024, that is the number of immigrants we'll have in Canada in 2024. 2.5 million. That's a drastically high number. What is the root cause of it? It's temporary foreign workers and students. And when you dive into this number and this problem that we're facing in Canada,
so before he goes on to that, I want to say that temporary workers and students, they're not temporary. It's a misnomer. People come over on temporary visas, and temporary visas lead to extensions of visas, and extensions of visas lead to permanent residency. This is how it works. I mean, nobody yeah, there are some people that come over for transient work, in the farming industry, stuff like that. You know, we have local farms up here that they can't get enough temporary workers in the short order, that they do have what's known in the US as an H1 visa. Up here, like, yeah, there are Mexicans that travel all the way up from Mexico to Canada, and they work for a short period of time, and they do go home. They make some money, and then they take off. They don't stay. H1B1, that's the one. That's right. So yeah, they come over on temporary working visas, but this isn't what's going on here. These are student visas. These are other temporary. They say temporary work visas, but they're work visas that are given out. I have to watch back with Darshan. He gave the exact visa that's given out, but it's a visa that's given out to workers because there's no other Canadian in the available to do a job. Now, is that always the case, or are they flubbing this? And in fact, we find out that they're selling these visas. These companies are selling these visas to Indians, and it's costing like $20,000 to $50,000 for one of these visas, and they can extend it, and they'll be tied to their work. They end up as indentured servants in this whole process. It's really disgusting. We got a super chat from David Edwards for $2. Says, Trump is polling in Canada at 33%, Trudeau 25%. That's funny. Trump is beating Trudeau in Canada. That's funny. That's really funny. Oh, wow. Okay. And quite happily, especially these days. Really? Oh, about these visas. Anyway, we're going to get further into this.
I'm not anti-immigration.
Nobody's anti-immigration.
I just think it needs to be calculated and measured with a plan. And currently,
nobody's anti-immigration. I mean, most of us come from immigrant families. I come from an immigrant family. I'm not anti-immigration. My wife's an immigrant. We're pro-immigration. We're just not pro-mass immigration to the tune of millions a year. It's crazy.
That is not the case. It's a complete mess. Right now, there's an unlimited number of temporary foreign workers that can come into Canada, and the same with students. There's many colleges in BC and Ontario, and probably in other provinces as well, where they're pretty much, as an article I found says, they're puppy mills.
Puppy mills, they're calling it. Now, this is crazy. Now, I found this post, a friend of mine sent me this on Reddit. I don't really frequent Reddit. I think it's a toxic wasteland, but a friend of mine sent me this, and of course the post got locked out. You cannot view it because one of the Redditors got rid of it, but I managed to get a screen grab before it was gone. And this was this is in the housing, Canada Housing 2.0 Reddit space. if you want to check it out over there, I mean, just Reddit's a toxic wasteland, but this is actually a good thread on this one. Now, somebody posted on this, and he's got an Indian flag mark on his profile, but it says increasing racism against Indians in Canada. I've been living in Canada for the past 4 years and have noticed increasing racism and hate being shown towards Indians. Trudeau has completely destroyed the Canadian economy by his woke politics, and now every single issue is being blamed on Indians. If you don't believe me, look up Canada Housing 2 group and you would see almost every single post and its comments is racist towards Indians. For all the Indians in this group, let's show our power to the puny Canadians. I'm sure that's why he got his post kicked off the site. I think because it sounds like an open threat. As an example, there is a post today in that group about WION reporting on how Indians are avoiding Canada for studies, and almost every single comment in that post is hateful and racist. Of course, this is and Darshan was talking about this, how it's so quick, people are so quick to jump to the racism argument when that's not actually the case. Now, here, the top reply on this was just so great to hear. It's refreshing. Because I've seen what Reddit's like, and it is, yeah, Tempest, full of holy cow, that's Reddit. But this guy, Der Boomer Waffen, he definitely hit the nail on the head with this one. He says, I don't think it's racism. People don't care that you're brown. People are upset that Indians are flooding into Canada, and many thousands are doing it on using false documents. If our country was taking in like 400,000 plus people per year from somewhere like Venezuela, I'm sure that the issue would still be the same. But the reality is no other country is flooding into Canada at the rate that Indians are. And Indians aren't exactly helping the situation when most of these students don't even bother to leave their own enclaves once they get here. And no, that doesn't absolve our government from those who effed over this country. Oh, sorry, our government who has effed over this country. They are very much to blame as well. I've also said it before, but you can tell a huge difference between Indians who came here 10 plus years ago and Indians who are coming here now. The ones who came here 10 plus years ago treat Canada like it's their home, and it rightfully is. They integrated well, and I see no difference between them and myself, who was born here. But these latest groups of Indians coming into Canada have no manners, barely any education, and do not leave their enclave. They aren't offering anything of substance to Canada. And someone replies, this hits the spot. Perfect answer to all this debacle. And I couldn't agree more. It's absolutely true. There are so many people who are great that have come over from India or from any country, and that's great. But what's happening now is not what was happening before, and it's not great. It's not a great idea what's happening these days here in Canada, to say the least. Now, it's incredible to me. It's incredible to me that these are the arguments that we keep having. I have to find this one post because it summed it up. I have to search for it now. I'm scrubbing my timeline to find it. So bear with me for a moment here. But it was a post that Darshan had put out there just the other day, and it hit the nail right on the head. Here it is. Darshan, he says here in this tweet, because someone was saying, why do we have to be? I'm from whatever. Here's what he says to the guy. With all due respect, if you can't be loyal to Canada, then you have no business being here. Loyalty to one's country is the most basic requirement. Canada is suffering enough from people whose loyalties will lie with their loyalties still lie with their country of origin instead of with Canada. And this is a really good point. It's absolutely a good point. Of course, yeah. Oh, these people don't even know what they're talking about. Like this, and he shows the Democratic. The people don't realize that the Ku Klux Klan was the Democrats. They were actually the militant wing of the Democrat Party. People don't remember their history at all. Anyway, so I replied to this because it wasn't a controversial statement. This is not a particularly controversial statement from Darshan. But depending on who says it, people will judge the intent differently. I believe Darshan is earnest in this statement, but someone might call me racist for saying the same thing with the same conviction. Is that not racism? Is the whole idea that somebody is allowed to say something and someone else is not allowed to make the same argument because they'll be considered racist because of the skin color, the color of the skin. This is where we're at in Canada at the moment when it comes to this debate. And it's, again, it's sophistry. It's people trying to use this excuse to shut down the conversation. You're a racist. You know, they just throw that out there to try to get you to stop talking. They want you to stop your arguments because your arguments are making too much sense. And really, that's where we're at with this whole thing. Anyway, Rob Hellfire, remember, for 12 months has it been that long? Man, thank you so much. I'll see you in Calgary soon, brother. That's great. Yeah, we'll have to make the announcement of where we're going to be hanging out because, yeah, definitely want to do a meetup. So we'll let everybody know. Pay attention to the communities tab on YouTube. If you don't know what that is, I'll have to pop that up and show you guys. Not that. Hold on a second here. Communities tab. If you go to the channel page, you'll see home, videos, shorts, lives, podcasts, playlists, and then community. This is where I put a lot of memes on here. A lot of people enjoy that, but the larger audience doesn't necessarily know about this. It'll come up in your feed on your mobile phone, but it doesn't always come up on your computer. So you can always check the communities tab to see if there's any posts there. But this is where I post them. Yeah, of course. And then we told them freedom of speech threatens freedom of speech. Of course it doesn't. Of course. Let's get on with this. I wanted to comment about this because, well, man, I get wrapped up in these conversation pieces, and it stretches on. It stretches on so far. I did want to bring this one up because this is something that I said. I'm tired of the accusation of being selfish. Now, the whole accusation of selfish, it came up. When did it came up on Twitter again? One of those things. Chippy's Outdoors member for 19 months. Man, I keep seeing these large numbers. You guys are crazy. Thank you so much for supporting me for so long. Want to protest war? Go fight to be productive in it. Want to change in and prime minister? Get out and you want to change the prime minister? Yeah, get out and vote. Absolutely. I've been encouraging people to get involved in the primaries, to elect the people who are going to be in the party to be part of, to be in the next election. I think you shouldn't just get, if you really want to be political, you shouldn't just be involved in the general election. Get involved in the political parties. Pick who's gonna be running. Don't just get out there and say, "Oh, it's the mono party, it's the uniparty. They're just gonna be the same." Well, what did you do to shape the party? Are you kidding me? You know you have every right to do that. Absolutely. Van Isle Chief saying saying Aaron Gunn NP. That's it. We're changing things by making this happen. Aaron Gunn's a shoo-in for the win in a general election. That's great. Because people are going to vote. People are going to vote conservative. People are going to vote liberal. Let's change the party. Let's change those parties. We've got Marcus Wong, who's going to be running in my region, Sea to Sky region. Get involved. Get involved. By the way, the cutoff is tonight. It may have already been passed. But I've been telling everybody about this. Make sure you're registered as a conservative, because then you can vote in these primaries. You have to be a conservative to decide Who's going to be the conservative? That's just, you got to do it. And there's no thing that says you can't be a conservative, a liberal, an NDP, a Green Party member, all of the parties. You could be a member of all of them. There's nothing stopping you. You can go vote in that. You know? You don't like the Liberal Party? Make them actually liberal. Make them actually like classical liberal. Change the parties. This is what we're all about. You don't have to start a new party. This is what Donald Trump did in America. He comes in, I'm going to be the Republican. Oh, but it's a bunch of rhinos. Yeah? And then there won't be a bunch of rhinos. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. The rhinos are getting weeded out. See you later. You got, and the neocons, forget them. Forget them. No thanks. Absolutely no thanks. You think you're going to do that by starting a brand new party in this day and age? No way. No wage. No way. Page refresh now. 727 likes. That's amazing. But there's 1,260 people in here. Come on. It's cheap. It's cheap. It's free. Hit that like button. It helps the channel out immensely. And I'll be really happy. Get on it. Get on it. Okay, I'm going to get into this. So, some liberal on Twitter called me selfish, and I couldn't help it. I had to comment on this. So it said, I'm tired of the accusation of being selfish, because this is an accusation that gets thrown towards people who don't want the government to be a charity for everybody. This is the thing. They don't want the government to be a charity for everyone. In fact, I need to open this up because I need to find the thing that I was actually, the discussion that was happening there. It wasn't that far back, was it? No, it couldn't have been. Could not possibly have been. Oh my goodness, I tweeted a lot today. Okay, here it is. Translation of a Liberal Party tweet. So this is the Liberal Party saying, while Pierre Poilievre wants to make deep cuts to programs that grow the middle class, our Liberal team is ensuring that Canadian parents have all the support they need to raise their families. And I tweeted saying, translation, a vote for the Liberal Party is a vote for government dependency. Absolutely. When they're preaching that government programs grow the middle class, are you kidding me? Do you even know how economies work? Of course not. They're liberals. It's Justin Trudeau. No, they don't know how these things work. No, governments don't grow middle class. Industry grows middle class. People being able to work and afford things for themselves grows the middle class. Not taxing the crap out of them and then giving them a little bit of their money back. That's not what happens. Now, some guy jumped in here, and I just got under the skin. This one. I'll vote Liberal. You sure as hell can't depend on conservatives to look after the people. Your attitude tells me you're probably fairly well off, but entirely selfish. Now that one gets under my skin. It gets under my skin because here's the accusation that because I don't want the government to be so far in people's lives that they depend on it, that I don't care. Now, so I had to reply to him saying the fact that you think we should depend on government is the problem. Social safety net was supposed to be a last resort for people in need, but this mentality has turned it into a crutch that is a crutch for a failing society. Now, all my friends in Argentina tonight that are tuning in will know exactly what I'm talking about. It's this crutch. It's the idea that when everybody's, for the sake of equality, we're going to hack everybody down. Everyone will enjoy the equality of poverty, where everybody needs government handouts. So this is why I said this. And I said, I give to private charity because I know my money will go to a good cause of my choosing. Selfish people who want the government to do things, these selfish people, they have the government give to charity because they know my money will go to a cause of their choosing. Spot the difference? Do you spot the difference? This is exactly what I'm talking about. People who say that they're moralistic, people on the left that espouse for socialism, communism, all of these things. They're the ones that are saying you have no heart. You have no heart. We're the people with all of the, you know, feelings for these poor downtrodden people in society. Are you kidding me? For 1 second, if you had any heart and any conviction, you'd put your own money where your mouth is. That's what you would do. You wouldn't enlist everybody else at the point of a gun to give to the charity of your choosing. Because that's what that is. When we're giving to this thing, or we're giving to that thing, when we're giving foreign aid to countries, you know what foreign aid is? Foreign aid is poor people in rich countries giving money to rich people in poor countries. It's crazy. You can't think for 1 second that you're being altruistic by spending their money, other people's money. It's outrageous to me. If you want to be out, if you want to say that, you know, you're you're the kind one, why don't you advocate that everybody be able to keep their money and then convince them to give to a charity of your choosing? That would be the moralistic thing to do. Just send her Clyde. We still give China money. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And we're going to talk about that with David Zang in a little bit here. I need to move on because this is getting crazy, and I'm missing the ball here. I wanted to talk more about other things. Of course, Canadian things. Here's Justin Trudeau with his most recent thing. So the new thing against Pierre Poilievre is, well, he's just a big old meanie. He's just a big old meanie. Bullying elected officials won't solve any challenges, and it isn't leadership, says the Liberal Party. Pierre Poilievre should apologize. He should apologize. This is the crybullies coming out. You should apologize. Our MPs are sad that you said bad things, that they did a bad job. Those MPs should apologize to their constituents for I almost dropped an F-bomb, for messing up this country and their towns. Absolutely. Let's get into this. Here's Justin Trudeau saying his piece.
Je suis extrêmement déçu de ce qu'on a vu de M. Poilievre aujourd'hui par rapport à son...
Oh, he's doing it in French. Okay, we got to do this the Canadian way, like you see. Okay, I got to keep the volume at like minimal, and then I'll put it over here. Here we go. Here's Justin Trudeau translated in the most accurate form I could possibly do. I gotta start this over. I'm extremely disappointed by what I've seen from Mr. Poilievre today in terms of his contempt for Quebec elected officials. In fact, he has demonstrated several occasions his condescension and ignorance of things work between our federal government and the provinces, and I think it's high time that he apologizes. I think he needs to apologize for his behavior and for attacking Quebec elected officials. I'm extremely disappointed in what we've seen from Mr. Poilievre today. Oh. my Trudeau's terrible. My Trudeau's terrible, but his Trudeau's even worse. But this is the thing. Oh, he's got to apologize. Does he have to apologize? Is this really what he's got to do? I love this. Someone replied right immediately below this. Does she count? Does she count for how horribly the MPs have been treated? Oh, I wonder. No, it's funny. He's asking for an apology, and of course it's because of what he's been saying. Liberal Party being a bully won't get houses built. Pierre Poilievre isn't worth the risk. Montreal and Quebec City mayors are incompetent, says Pierre Poilievre. They are. Doesn't make that go away. Now, it wasn't Pierre Poilievre, but I heard a recent apology. That was a sincere one. That, I don't know, this might be, if Pierre, if you're watching, this might be maybe an example of how you can give the Liberals the apology that they're looking for.
I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The Donald Trump does what the he wants.
That's what he should do. Come on, Pierre. Do it. Do it. Do it. Get out and give that kind of apology. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see it. But here's Pierre Poilievre saying, here's when I condemned incompetent NDP mayor Kennedy Stewart for blocking Vancouver home building with federal tax dollars from Trudeau. Hey, guess what? Yeah, all the way back in April 11th in 2022. He's showing this. Penny D with a super chat for $5. Great one, Clyde. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Yeah, we all love Conor McGregor. He's great. Here's Pierre Poilievre showing how terrible a job they've been doing. Oh no, don't tell us how bad a job we've been doing. You should apologize for this. We've been trying to do a good job, but we just can't. We've got terrible ideology. We keep following the Prime Minister in his lead. I don't know. We should. What do you want from the guy? Pierre Poilievre also saying incompetent NDP Liberal city politicians raised Toronto taxes by 10.5%, just like Trudeau. Hands in your pockets, not worth the cost. Common sense conservatives will cut your taxes. There you go. Lobster with a $1 super chat. Thank you so much, Lobster. Are you a Jordan Peterson fan? Is that the name for? Oh, love it. Anyway, moving on. What else do we got here? We've got, this is the very definition of bullying. Spare us your hypocrisy, says Glenda M on Twitter. And this is a video of Justin Trudeau and just how great he is. And what? Oh, come on, Twitter. Don't do this to me right in the middle of a live stream. I gotta reload it.
So the folks out there tonight shouting, the
Come on.
anti-vaxxers, they're wrong. Cool. If you want to get on a plane or a train in the coming months, you're going to have to be fully vaccinated because everyone needs to get vaccinated, and those people are putting us all at risk. And yes, there is a...
Oh, and it goes on and on. It goes on and on and on. Colette saying incompetent is being nice. What he wants to say is corrupt. Yeah, what he ought to be saying is corrupt. But where are the apologies coming from? When are we going to get apologies for this? How about this? We knew last summer the wildfires. We knew last summer's wildfires were arson. Will the Liberal Party apologize for falsely calling it climate change? And then taxing us based on that. Actually running campaigns saying, look at all these fires. We need carbon taxes. Property and lives destroyed. Millions of animals and these monsters burned alive. If I had my way, eco-terrorists would never again see the light of day. Yeah, they should be the ones apologizing. Absolutely correct. Gerber Brar, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Gerber Brar with a 279 super chat. Canadians have no idea how big is immigration scam. This, the immigration scam is massive, and I want to get this story out there to as many people as possible. So yeah, stories like I published on Monday morning. Get that out there. Please share it as much as you can. Put it on all your social medias. Get that story out there. G Meister with a $10 super chat. Evening, Clyde. Here are a few bucks for you not to play any clips of Chrystia Freeland tonight. No promises. No promises. That's funny, though. Demogorgon Ramsey with the $15 super chat. Those Quebec mayor's arguments was money goes to government first. So not only those mayors are incompetent, but they are telling that Quebec government is also incompetent. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're corrupt. They're so corrupt in Quebec. Probably the most corrupt province in this country. Unbelievably. And yeah. And the BC NDP are really trying to win that first prize, though. Let me tell you, they're absolutely going for that one. But here we have it. Here we have it. Will Stephen Guilbeault publicly address Canada and apologize? How many more arsonists will be arrested and charged with the most destructive wildfire year in Canadian history? That is now 2 arsonists, Nova Scotia and Quebec. Oh, is that all? Is that all? No. Charges laid also in a series of intentionally set Alberta wildfires, residential arsons. All trying to blame it on climate change, on the climactic thing. Quebec man pleads guilty to setting 14 fires, forcing hundreds from homes. Newbie 431, member for 18 months. Seriously, get vaccinated, lol. Oh, too funny. Robert McFallon with the $10 super chat. I'm in for another 10 in the don't make us listen to Freeland pot. Can I will it happen? Will it happen? I don't know. We're moving in this direction. Holy cow, I need to close some tabs, so I'm just gonna go over here so I can close some of these things. This is my weekly like tabs closing session when I do a live stream with you guys, because it's ridiculous the amount of tabs that I keep open at all times, just to give you these stories, just to share this with you. It's my way of organizing things. It's I have no other way of doing it. Unbelievable. I guess we're skipping this clip. I guess we're gonna be skipping this part. We won't be talking about this one. That's that, I guess. Sorry. I wanted to talk about the WEF stuff. Why don't we talk about the WEF and what they're doing? Oh, sorry. These clips going away. You guys didn't like my story about Chrystia Freeland? I thought it was good. I thought it was a good story. Obviously asking the question. Here's the question. Is Chrystia Freeland criminally dishonest about Canadian economy, or is she straight jacket level delusional? One or the other, can't be both. I don't think so. You're bad, Clyde. No, I'm not bad. Come on back in, chat. Come on back in here. I was going to share a lot of this stuff. I do want to share, though, because in my video about Javier Milei, I shared the video of him talking, and it was in Spanish with dubs. And I'll say that the guy who was doing the live dubbing of it did a bang up job. He was really quick. Even Marty congratulated him because like to translate that. But I have the better version here, and he starts in English. And I want to play this for you guys because I think this would be a good one to hear today, especially for all those people in the audience tonight, all those new people that are joining the channel from Argentina. So welcome everybody. Thanks for coming in. There's a bunch of you guys. Holy cow. And don't forget to hit that like button. You know, there's 1,300 of you in the chat. We could get that. We could get the likes over 1,000. Come on. That's funny. Utaka with the $2 super chat. Freetard. That might get me in trouble if I keep using that nickname. Anyway, let's get into this clip because I think everybody needs to hear this.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today, I am present to inform you that the Western world is facing a significant threat. It is in danger because those who are supposed to defend the values of the Western world are co-opted by a worldview that inevitably leads to socialism and consequently to poverty and economic deprivation. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-intentioned desires to help others and others by the desire to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We are here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the problems that afflict the citizens of the world, but rather they are their cause. Trust me, there is no one better than us Argentines to provide testimony on these two issues. When we embraced freedom in 1860, in 35 years we became the world's first dominant power. 35 years we became the first world power. While when we embraced collectivism, over the past 100 years, we saw how our citizens began to systematically impoverish themselves until they fell to the 140th position in the world. 40 in the world. But before we can have this discussion, it would be important for us to first look at the data that supports why free market capitalism is not only a possible system to end world poverty, but also the only morally desirable system to achieve it.
It's the only morally desirable system to achieve it. Now, I came to a premonition. I came to this realization the other day, because I've been saying this for some time, that the idea of, what happened to the chat? Why does this happen? Come on back, chat. The idea of collectivism, you can experiment this in a free, fair, and open society where you have the right to do whatever the heck you want to do. You can try collectivism. You can go on and try your communism, your socialism, have your little enclaves, have your little communes. Give it a go. Have an experiment with that, and just try it out and see if it works. Now, there have been many experiments that have run, and it's never worked out. Oh, shocker, shocker! It usually fails. Bernie Sanders was one of the failures, by the way. He was famously a couch surfer in one of these communes. Didn't do any of the work because he was an intellectual. You know, this is how that works. Now, that being said, I always said you can't in a communist society try capitalism. But that's not actually completely true. In China, they did try this. They had 4 economic sectors that opened up. So and it turns out that was the biggest economic boom that China had ever seen since communism. Well, they saw poverty when communism came. That came quick. But those 4 economic sectors became the entire economy of China. So we can say that, yes, you can experiment with free market capitalism in communist countries, and it will become the biggest economic powerhouse you will ever see. This is the truth. But it will come with a lot of corruption because it comes with the Communist Party ruling over it. Robert McFallon with the $5 super chat. Thanks. I'll listen to your analysis. I've heard her already. Yeah, you don't need to hear Freetard's voice again. Wait, one second. We've got Gerber. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Gerber Bar with a $2.79 super chat. I have inside information on immigration scam. We should get in touch with each other. Hit me up in the Discord if you have Discord. Sign up. The link is in the description down below. Send me a message or join the community there, and I'd love to get in touch with you. AMW71 with a $13.99 super chat. First drink is on me, Clyde. I'm looking forward to meeting you and Marty at the Tucker after party on Wednesday. So looking forward to this event. Thanks. That's awesome. So yeah, just pay attention to where we're doing that, and let's have a beer together. That would be fantastic. Now I want to get over to this because I think people need to definitely need to go check out this channel for sure. This is China Insider with David Zang, and before we bring him in here, I want to give a little quick introduction to his channel. He does some amazing amazing commentary on what's going on over in China with the CCP. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and what's happening there. Great commentary on contemporary things that are happening with that situation. Also, issues with Taiwan. Of course, there's always contention with Japan, so those stories come up as well. It really sparks my interest because of, well, you guys all know my lineage and family and all that stuff over there. So this is big excitement. I've been following his channel for a good amount of time. I encourage you all to go over and subscribe. But without any further ado, I'd love to welcome to the show David Zang. David Zang, thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Clyde.
Absolutely. You've been doing a bang-up job. I've been really, really impressed with your work on your channel, getting news to a lot of us out here. We get news from our usual mainstream media sources, don't have a lot of inside scoop on what's happening in China, especially if you try to get news from official sources. You're going to get basically what the Chinese Communist Party wants you to hear. And it's refreshing to hear a voice from people who have an inside scoop on what's going on there. How did you get started with all of this? And how did we get to this point right now where we're at?
Yeah, Clyde, I started working at a news station called the Epoch Times during the pandemic, really. And then about a year and a half later, I started doing this myself. So back then, when I was at the Epoch Times, I had a channel, same name, called China Insider. And I just basically took the name after and I continued to do it. And it really stems from a passion of mine, I guess you could say, because my personal experience, I grew up in China. I'm actually from Canada as well. So I grew up in Canada, but it was also always kind of stuck with me. What was going on in China needed to be clarified to everybody around the world, because clearly we've been poisoned by their narrative for many years through, you know, the whole economic power and all coercion, all these things. And so it kind of clicked naturally for me, given the fact that we were, you know, still in this pandemic. And we still had no idea what was going on, you know, what was happening in Wuhan back in the days. And so it kind of became the spark for me to start this, because I think it's a place where it's a lot of information and a lot of truth is missing. So that's kind of how I got started.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I didn't know you were actually with the Epoch Times. I'm going to be honest. I'm very bad at not reading the author's name when I go through articles. I just go through the content and I see that. So my bad if I've probably read a bunch of your articles over the years. But yeah, so I wanted to get to the main crux of basically the way a lot of people see the whole China-Canada relation thing. I know a lot of people, they're upset with, obviously there's corruption, there's a lot of issues, and we can get into all those issues that are happening here in Canada because of the Chinese Communist Party. But it seems that every time you bring it up, the narrative is to say, oh, you said something about China, you're racist. And people really need to make a hard stop. We're not talking about China. When we say China, we're talking about the Chinese Communist Party. We're talking about the government of China, and we're criticizing that, not criticizing people of China. I feel sorry for the people of China. I feel sorry for them going back decades since the 50s, and having to go through Mao's his revolution and everything that's happened in China ever since, all the way to today, and it's still not great for Chinese people. So I mean, there's a clear delineation. Like, how do I even set the stage for this? How do we delineate between when we're criticizing China, the government, and delineating it from the people?
Great question. It's very easy, in my opinion, because China's long history and its culture has been rooted in, you know, this connection to, whether that's to the divine beings, to the various historical, you know, figures. It's one of the longest, I guess you say, culture in the world, right? And the CCP has only existed for 100+ years, and so it's really a very small fraction of what represents people from China. And so that's precisely what the CCP wants to erase as well, because if you think about it, they generate this sense, right? You need to rely on the communists to survive. In other words, if you don't have us, how can you live on? They try to erase this idea that dynasties can go on, that presidents can be replaced, elections can happen, whatever form of choice that people have. They say that we are irreplaceable. And by creating this sense of reliance, you really just sever that connection, or even that trust, to our history. And so by doing that, you're erasing the line between the Chinese people, the government, and the party. And so I always tell people, the people of China, they never should be represented by a Western concept. And that, I mean, it's a European ideology that really destroyed Europe in the 20th century. And so why should that be what defines China and what defines the Chinese people in the 21st century?
Yeah, well, it's sad that Europe gets the rap for one guy with a god complex that made a meme, this poor economic policy called socialism, and it's wreaked havoc on the planet. And in every culture that it's been adopted, it's wreaked havoc. We saw it in the Soviet Union. We saw it with China, under Mao. We saw it with Venezuela, even in recent times, in Cuba. It's been horrible everywhere it's been implemented. And I mean, we don't need to prove this anymore. I don't know why we have to have these discussions over and over again. I mean, you could just look at Korea from space, and it's a perfect example. You have one culture, a monoculture of Koreans. You split it right down the middle. You say, okay, you guys are free market capitalists. You guys are socialists. And we'll see how this goes. 80 years later, you can't even see North Korea at night from space. It's ridiculous. It really is that cut and dry. But yet we still keep trying to run this crazy experiment. And every time, and as I was getting into in my little epilogue before bringing you on, was this idea that you can run a socialist experiment in a free society, but there's only, anytime a socialist government takes place, you don't have the freedom to try a free market economy unless they choose to do so. And this happened in China. They had the 4 economic sectors that opened up. I believe it was late 70s, early 80s, was it?
Yeah.
And that led to a giant economic boom, but then it also led to corruption, like mass corruption in China, and a lot of people who had these promises of the socialist paradise, the great thing, that the utopia that was supposed to come, they were all shut down when they went to protest to get that. And this is a curious thing that I wanted to ask you, because obviously you lived in China, you've lived in Canada, so you can see the Western side of it, you can see the Eastern side of it. But I've come to learn that Chinese people don't believe that the Tiananmen Square events took place because of propaganda from the Chinese Communist Party. What is the prevailing viewpoint there?
Right. I would say 6 out of 10 people you ask in China would say that nothing. Well, they wouldn't say that nothing happened, but they would pretend like nothing happened, because it's one of the. I would say one of the 5 unspoken. I guess you would say there's nothing that happened that day sort of events in China. It's one of the 5. So the reason why people do this, right? Because clearly things happened that night. We have footage. We have of the Tiananmen Square massacre. You see the students running. You see, there's blood everywhere. There's tanks rolling down. So how could you erase that from people's memory? It was so shocking to that night of people across China that people are they're unwilling to comprehend that this actually took place. Wow. And of course, there's the whole propaganda aspect to it. one of the biggest outcome of the night was also the fact that it marked the end of the lingering press freedom that China still had in its state-controlled media environment. It was said that the media freedom died the night that the students also died. So it also marked the what you mentioned, Clyde. When you transition from the traditional, so to speak, the socialist construction of running China to that more of a mix between planned economy and capitalism, people thought that by shutting up and just making money, making mad amounts of money, that they will be further away from political persecution and avoiding threat to themselves. Just continue to make money, and that largely, generated what basically known as the massive corruption we're seeing too. But that was the mindset for a lot of people. They shut down that ideological part of their brain to say that we're just going to be materialistic, and the more materialistic we are, the safer we are. And so that really transitioned from the Mao's terror way of ruling to more of a, I guess you would say, you're tranquilized in a sense, right? Through the materialist consumption of China's economy. And so now today, obviously, most younger people, they're never learning about the Tiananmen Square massacre or whatever happened since. But there are some moments where, for example, on June 4th each year, it's particularly sensitive in China. If you do anything like posting an image of a tank, you get censored, or anything referencing the day, it gets you censored. But people start to learn about these things. And so more people discover the forbidden part of history in China as they grow older. And so I would say, maybe like 10% of Chinese people still know what happened.
Some people just don't realize how restrictive China actually is for the average people that live there. I understand that they have the Great Chinese Firewall, they call it. And everybody knows the Great Chinese Wall, the Great Wall of China. But the Great Chinese Firewall is now this this thing that stops Chinese people from seeing the greater internet, seeing what's actually out there, and they're subject to this, and they're not allowed to use VPNs. Now, I've heard from places that there's actually punishments if you're caught using a VPN. What kind of punishment would you get for that?
It really depends. It's a double standard too, because all these officials, they use VPN to browse like Western sites all the time, and they don't get punished. But if you are somebody who offends, for example, by posting on Twitter something offensive, I think it lands you a fine, maybe even 15 days in jail. I haven't heard many stories of people getting severe punishments for it, but I do hear cases of people in subways in Chinese cities, like cops will come in, they'll check your phones for things like forbidden apps or VPNs and that sort of thing. But still, it's become a culture to use VPNs simply because it's really started about early, maybe 2005, 2006, when people started to break through the firewall. I mean, the thing here is, once you get access to outside information, once you hear free sources of information, you can never go back. You get this desire. So a lot of people continue to use it one way or another.
That's an interesting aspect of it I hadn't considered. So, because I know that there's this like technocratic move from China to gain control of their people. I mean, people over here, they think, oh, it'll never happen. We never see that. You better believe it'll happen if you let it. If you let it happen, they'll take that kind of control. So, yeah, tell me about this. How is it for the average person? Because I know like people like me, and I go on YouTube and I have to dance around words in order to not get censored on YouTube. We all get this. You can't say certain things on Facebook. You can't say certain things on, well, now Twitter's a little bit freer, but you can still get shadow banned on Twitter. This is like back in, it's hardwired into the website now because of years of what was going on there. But in China, it's more open. They're more open about it. You said that there's double standards. I mean, if it wasn't for double standards, I don't think socialists would have any standards, but that's just a way of looking at it. But there's always going to be people that strive and want to be free. That's always going to be an aspect of life. No, we're not caged animals. That's not in our nature as human beings, and we won't take that if we know that there's an option. So you're saying that people are getting word from outside, and then they'll risk punishment to use VPNs just to get information. What are they doing with this information when they get it?
It's very interesting. There are many avenues. I'll just give you a few examples that I know of. One of them is they would share, for example, people live in the United States, they do like a Chinese talk show, sort of political talk show commentary, and they'll get the video, they'll download it, bring it into China, spread it around WeChat groups. Each of these groups could range from 10,000 people. Some of them are much bigger, some are smaller. Those get spread around like wildfire. So you get to listen to a lot of the free information. Another one is there was a guy named Program Thing. That's his online name. He, for the longest time until his arrest, was doing this guerrilla campaign, evading internet censors, evading internet police to create this online Wikipedia for Chinese people to access things like VPN, important reads, like books, sources, and all these things, search engines, everything. He had this online system. And then after, I think like evading the police for 20 years, they finally found out who he was and arrested him. And he's been jailed since. Pretty sad. But another way is
they can just trump up any charges on you that they want. I mean,
yeah, well, he's like the big one, it's just, you got to get rid of him.
Right.
But the other side of things is you can use VPNs from China, get to the other side of the wall, and you can just freely watch YouTube, go on Twitter and things like that. But I noticed a lot of people use Twitter to read like negative information, or even to still read Chinese propaganda even after they scale the wall. which is pretty sad.
That is sad.
But actually, many other people still get access to free information outside of it. So it's very hard for the CCP to control this completely, simply because today's technology, right? It's really like it's a battle. You always have one side upping the other side, and so it's just whoever wins the technological race. And I think final point is, today, people are less scared about the regime than it was maybe 10 years ago. I think that's why, a lot of people say China's a paper tiger now, the CCP. But people, like you said, the desire for freedom is much bigger than wanting to be caged in, especially when it comes to information. So even I think that little risk that they take, it's worth it in their view.
I see. Now, Hong Kong was a British leased area for what was 99 years. And then they had to give it back in, I believe it was 1999, to China. Now, obviously, the people of Hong Kong were very distraught that the Chinese Communist Party would now take possession over that. How has that fared over the past, 20 years now, 24 years? And what's become of Hong Kong since?
Basically, the story of Hong Kong is summarized in one sentence, which is never to give an inch to the Communist Party. Because when you do, what happened with Hong Kong was a group of people thought, we have this massive regime, we can't ever compete or fight against it, but let's just give them what they want. At first, of course, they only asked for a little, but then inch by inch, they keep asking for more. Mm-hmm. It's the bully mentality, which is they prey on the weak mindset, right? So over time, Hong Kong slowly got more and more pro-China, not because they wanted to, but because it was slowly being infiltrated because people were scared. And so by the time 2010, 2014 rolled around, there was protests because at this point people had realized, oh my God, things are changing in Hong Kong. 2019, obviously, we saw those massive protests and the enactment of the national security law. Since 2020, Hong Kong has completely fallen in the sense that it's no different than a regular city in China anymore. What once was known as the jewel of Asia, this massive economic powerhouse, is no more. Really, Hong Kong today is just a regular Chinese city. And, you have replacement with like Singapore in place for Hong Kong. And it's a really sad story because, this propaganda point they always say, right? Under British rule, it's like you have a foreign colonialism or imperialism, whatever, in place in China. But think about now, if Hong Kong was still under British rule, people there would be able to speak freely. Apple Daily, all these press would still be there. You have freedom, but that's no longer there under the CCP.
Now, Hong Kong is an interesting case because it's probably one of the better examples of free market economics to actually use as an example. So Hong Kong doesn't really have a lot of place. It doesn't have a lot of space. It's not a big area. There's not a ton of resources. Their main resource is that their location is great. And there was low taxes, like just historically low taxes. You could go there, exchange goods with other people from other places of the world, and not have to deal with tariffs. Like that if that's not a better case for free market economics, I don't know what else is. And as soon as that environment's gone, all the equity in that is gone with it. So then people move over to places like Singapore, like you were saying. And then that becomes the thing. So I think that's, again, another good example. Now, moving over to and you don't have to give me the whole history of Taiwan. I mean, it's a big history, but just so the audience can understand a brief history of what's going on there. Why China thinks it's part of China, why Taiwan considers themselves the real China, and why there's a contention and why there's worries that China will invade Taiwan.
Right. So I would, you can sit here and debate with a historic, professor from China about this legitimacy issue for days, but I'll keep it simple. Basically, the contemporary issue is since 1949, there was a civil war that led to the defeat of the KMT, which is the Nationalist Party. They left to Taiwan. Since then, the CCP has been wanting to defeat the KMT, or the Nationalist Party, which is on Taiwan, and then take over Taiwan in what they call is a unification or reunification of China. But the thing is, the CCP loves to use this historical period to justify their attempt to take the island militarily or use some sort of infiltration method to try to get the government to, much like Hong Kong, to reincorporate itself into China. But today, the issue is people born on the island of Taiwan, they don't have a lot of association with mainland. The example is, people in Singapore speak Chinese as well, but they're Singaporeans. A lot of Taiwanese people today don't think they're Chinese people. They think they're Taiwanese people. The latest election, which saw the Democratic Progressive Party take on another 4 years, is a great example of this difference in how people view their identity shifting. Just like how Canadians don't say we're, British residents in Canada.
No.
Right? It's Canadian. It's a new identity. Of course, there's the British history behind it. So why does China want Taiwan? The number one issue is there is a legitimacy issue for the existence of the CCP, because the very idea of Taiwan calls into the question of why the CCP needs to exist. You have an island, 23 million people living in a free democratic society, able to exercise their voting rights, speak freely. And then you see what's happening across the strait, right? In China, 1.4 billion people unable to have any of the rights I just mentioned. Rubber stamp voting, dictatorship, censorship, all of these things. So if the CCP cannot stamp out Taiwan, it cannot legitimately say that it is the right way, so to speak, for Chinese people, right? Because there's a whole argument saying that Asians can't do democracies, or that Chinese people must have dictatorship.
What? That's
But
that's where the
of,
real racism is. That's crazy.
But if you look at Japan, look at South Korea, look at
Totally
Taiwan,
fine.
these are great examples, right? So obviously, there's the whole technological aspect, right? TSMC, and geostrategically, there's the whole first island chain aspect, which is preventing the Chinese military from projecting its power into the greater Pacific Ocean. And so, but the main point for me is the legitimacy issue. And I think that's why, the CCP as a whole, as a party, their understanding is that Taiwan has to go, and one way or another. And Xi has made it his mission to do so in his time. That's at least what he wants to do. Whether or not that actually happened, though, my assessment right now, just based on the current condition of China, I think it's very hard for him to start a war because I don't think the economic situation allows him to. But obviously things could change. But just given the current trend, I think it's very hard.
Well, let's get into that. The economic situation in China. We're facing a economic. We had a housing bubble in Canada, and it was largely due to low interest rates for so long, bidding up the price of real estate, causing malinvestment, people going into that marketplace, and then you double onto that massive immigration, tremendous amounts of people coming into the country, and you get this giant housing shortage. Push and pull of the prices want to come down, interest rates are going up, but they can't because there's too little supply in the marketplace. So we have our own housing situation, but I understand China has a different housing situation, and for different reasons, even cultural reasons, i.e. Men having to own a piece of property just to court a girl. I hear that's an issue. Can you explain China's economic issues right now?
So China has three golden industries versus manufacturing and export. For so long, that's basically their main source of revenue. Domestically, real estate is the big one. So that's the second. Real estate is about 30% of China's overall economy.
And that's a domestic consumption item, correct? That's China's.
Yes.
China's buying, like Chinese citizens are buying up all of this real estate, not foreigners investing there.
Exactly. And so that ties into the third one, which is domestic consumption or spending power. So these three are the golden industries that has propped up China's economy since it started the whole reform and opening up. Now, all three of these are down, severely down, to the point where China has entered deflation, which is, in deflation, basically you have a lot of supply. In this case, in the real estate, for example, there's more than enough buildings to house the entire population of China to live in these apartment complexes, but they still keep building. And nobody's buying them anymore because the real estate price continues to pummel. But nobody's buying because there's an overall lack of confidence in the Chinese government. People are very scared. Savings last year was at an all-time high. I'll just give you an example of how much people were saving. In the first quarter of 2023, the savings goal for the entire China was finished. It was the same amount they had done for the entire year of 2022, was already done in the first quarter of 2023. So people simply just put their money in the bank, and they don't want to spend on things like buying a house, buying bigger items like a car, investing into the stock market, things like that, right? So when you're in deflation, it's very dangerous because what China has been doing for a very long time to try to bail out its large industries is just printing more money. But then now you have a situation where, sure, the people are getting money, but the government wants them to spend it, but they're like, no, we're not going to spend it. We're just going to keep saving it. And so for basically the entire 2023, the CCP has tried to get people to spend money and to try to come up with this idea that the economy is back. Let's spend money, right? go on vacations, eat out, buy houses, and things like that. And then people are just like, nah, we're just gonna chill. Let's just not do any of those things. And then what happens is in the I think this was 2 days ago at Davos World Economic Forum, the Chinese premier spoke and he says China's GDP is 5.2% growth, right? As he spoke, the across China's stock market, all the indexes just dropped points, like 2%, 3%, 4%. So it's like the market just basically just gave him a big slap across the face and tells him like, no, that's not, you didn't grow 5.2%. So China's economy, once you, the issue is you mentioned bubbles, right? The way the Chinese economy works is that the real estate sector is tied to the local economy as well, because local governments make money by leasing land to developers. So the more you build, the more houses you put up, the more money the local government has. And then also at the same time, China's heavy on infrastructure constructions. So you see all these beautiful roads, bridges, skylines, right? Huge buildings. That's one point that China always says that about the reputation. You know, they have this beautiful skyline in these beautiful cities. Well, all those you need to pay for them, right? So local governments will finance them, and they actually put so much money into this. But because these are really dead investments, they don't generate any money. Like if you build a bridge, it's not going to make you billions of dollars. What ends up happening is they mount a huge amounts of debt, and these debt are called hidden debt, right? So China has, I believe, according to the IMF, 92 trillion or 82 trillion. I can't remember the exact number, which is still about half that of the US. But we know the things is that nobody's buying China's debt, right? So China's economy is running on a over exertion system where you basically continue to build this bubble. Now, in any sort of economics, whether you believe in communism, socialism, or capitalism, you know that supply and demand like exists still in communism. It's just that they manufacture, they artificially create them, right? So there is bound to be a breaking point. And many people that are experts on Chinese economy, they do look at the next few years and say that, you know, this is really dangerous because how much longer can you go on with all the entire system, like all your consumption's down, all your real estate's down, your export is non-existent, foreign investments, you know, withdrawn completely. How long can you go on for? And so that's really the big question. And so under that context, it's very hard for Xi to do anything over Taiwan.
From what I understand, there's entire cities with nobody living in them. Like there's all of these places they've built up and they've built all this infrastructure, and people either purchase them and don't put anything in them, like don't furnish them, don't put even kitchens, bathrooms, or anything in them because it's for down the road perhaps, or it's just an investment they might want to flip later. This is all speculation that's been built up, like buy property because it's a thing to do instead of buy property because this is something that you want to consume it. And like it's a whacked out economy. These are the kinds of things like you only see with central authorities or with central bank manipulation, that kind of thing. You wouldn't see that in a organic economy at all.
Yeah, no, it's what the government has done with the developers for real estate for a very long time is they incentivize you buying, and that it's really weird because when you don't have the sense of urgency to buy, you make better choices, right? You research, like you take you a year to look for a house and put a down payment on. But the way that they do it in China is the developers will say, okay, we're going to do this pre-sale campaign. It's going to be a beautiful apartment. You know, you have 3 bedrooms, you know, you have pools, whatever, all these utility amenities. Your utilities are going to be well done. You know, everything's good, right? But you haven't even seen the apartment up yet. It's just like a plot of land. And they show you a picture, and then they're just like, okay, just trust us on this. Like, trust me, bro. Just give us your money, and then we'll build this for you, right, in like 2 years. And then apparently that's enough. Plus, government propaganda and all these things saying that, help contribute to the economy, buy a house, put a down payment. And then what happens during the pandemic was that all these real estate developers, because they've been bailed out for so long, suddenly are racking up billions, hundreds of $1 billion, going bankrupt, defaulting on their payments, realizing that actually this whole time they did not do anything with the money that was meant to build the houses. And so you had a bunch of apartment complexes in China that were unfinished, right? So they simply stopped building it because there's just no money to continue for the construction. And then where did the developers go? Well, billions of dollars are just missing. You wonder where that's been, corruption.
So they
but that's the
fly
story
by
of-
night and then they're gone. See you later.
Yeah.
There's no repercussions.
And then
No one to sue.
next week you see a beautiful beach house in the Bahamas, some Chinese official and their 3 mistresses are living their life out there.
Oh, wow.
That's where money ends up.
That's crazy. Yeah. So in China, is there any sort of so in North America we have we have our civil courts, and you take someone to court. You ripped me off. I had a contract. You signed it. I didn't get what I was promised. We had stipulations. What was the recourse for the average person in China?
Well, you mentioned contracts. The fundamental of capitalism is you sign a law-binding document, and that guarantees you, right? China's new contract law basically says any contracts can be, I guess you would call invalidated if it violates national security or party reasonings that would offend the party. So basically, China can just say, and you go to the court, they'll be like, I can't do anything because Chinese courts are part of the judicial system, which is overseen by the party. So it's not a separate, independent entity. It's just a part of the party's judicial system. So there's really no independence of the law. But contracts can be easily violated. You go to civil courts. You can do. Lawyers in China, they really can't do much. At the end of the day, everything is up to whatever the judge says. The judge always listens to the party, and so there's really no sense of legality in what we would know as fighting a legal battle.
Now I see why Trudeau Sr. liked Mao so much. He famously wrote the notwithstanding clause to our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it seems a lot along those lines. You have all these rights, so long as we don't need to step all over them. That's kind of the issue there. Now, a lot of Canadians will say that was a big mistake, but imagine having that on any document, any contract is a notwithstanding clause that says, well, if it's one of our friends, yeah, that contract's no longer valid. You don't have a leg to stand on here, and this is why I keep stressing this. And I say that nowadays, the fight that we're fighting it's a global fight. We're all global citizens if you look at it that way. Most people can do business with other countries. You can communicate with people in any country. I think the days of thinking that we're in this, like, we're in closed little bubbles is over. I mean, we all have our nationalities, we all have our countries of origin, we all have that, but we can do business wherever we'd like, even in backwards totalitarian government places like China. But the big crux of this, and I think the big battle moving forward, and a lot of people don't know how to define it really, is that there's a real argument to be made that there's 2 fundamental ideologies at play here. There's the one that at the core of it believes in property rights and believes in people's ability to maintain those property rights and government contracts that will maintain those property rights. And then there's the other school of thought where, no, there's a collective good, and your property, you don't have a really right to it at the end of the day. And there could be some collective good where we need to take it from you. it always starts off with the great idea that it will always be for the greater good, but it's often corrupt in it, and it's for somebody's personal good, and that's usually how it rolls. But I feel that like the planet at this time ideologically is caught between this rock and hard place, these two competing ideologies, and one always inevitably goes to some sort of form of totalitarianism, and then the other one is the slow crawl to totalitarianism that you have to keep fighting off in order to keep your freedom, and we're currently in that fight right now in the Western world. Now, China is part of that entity that's creeping in, and we've been noticing that here in Canada. We've been hearing lots about the interference in our election, certain politicians being, there was 11 of them apparently named to CSIS. The prime minister knows who they are, won't give out that information of who they are, but 11 of them were compromised and are part of the 338 sitting in our House of Parliament at the moment. And then, we have all these stories like the accusations against Han Dong, sitting a politician in Parliament who's being accused of, in the last election, communicating with officials in China to keep political prisoners behind bars, because if they were to be released, it would look good for the other party who's running against him. And of course, that's an allegation. I'm not making the allegation. That was brought forward by journalists at, I believe it was the Globe and Mail. But this is a big problem in Canada. What is China up to? they're getting into our what's the goal, in your opinion, of what they're trying to do in Canada?
It's always been every country, like particularly the U.S., Canada, European countries. Even I think there was a story about Liz Truss, the short-lived prime minister. She was secretly behind her whole China hawk image, apparently trying to get one of the district's company to export weapons or something to China. So you wonder, how deep is this? The main goal here is to control the narrative and perception about China around the world. They've been very successful at this, even I think pre-2016. I fundamentally think that Trump changed that. And to some degree, now Biden has continued some, at least in the US. In Canada, what I've observed is there's a much less awareness of grassroots organizations that are pro-China. Because China's not going to send, one of their own spies or something to be like, hey, you want to, you're a sitting member of the House of Commons, you want to do some stuff about China.
No, they're busy dating Swalwell in the United States.
Yeah, exactly. So they would send in like somebody who is a Canadian, perhaps, and they would do these engagements. It's called a Unite Front department that specifically is tasked to do this. So the goal here is to co-opt the organizations in Canada to influence these politicians, in some cases, even through monetary bribes, other means. You always hear about this kind of story. I remember I was told the story of like these officials from, I won't say which country, but they were invited to China for like a week tour. They were given, girls, food, tours, just a luxury experience, which then they carried back to their home country, and it turned into, hey, maybe China's not so bad. Let's, help them out and things like that.
Oh,
so
wow, okay.
the main goal is to basically change the perception of that country's view of China to the benefit of allowing China to do things on the world stage.
I think they're dancing with the devil when they're doing that. Absolutely. Canadians, there's a lot of Canadians that are worried that China is trying to influence or infiltrate Canada. And then, there's always, I hear it on social media. I gotta, tell people to chill out a little bit, like land invasion from China. Like this is the stuff that's going to happen. That's obviously not very likely. What's the likelihood of a land invasion from China?
I think if China were to actually invade Canada, I think the world will be already much different than what we're seeing now. Because the idea. So here's what China actually wants to do, right, with their military. First, they want to take Taiwan. Once they take Taiwan, they can basically sort of block off the South China Sea, the Eastern China Sea. So countries like South Korea, Japan, the Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, they are all going to be under this power projection sphere of China, which means that they're very likely to either try to resist and potentially having to fight China, or basically listen to what China says. Then China's going to continue to grow their military to the point where they can sway at least half of the Pacific Ocean to say that, this is our half, and to the point where they can match the United States in I guess, military power projection. But, by that point, even if Canada and the United States were to not be invaded, China would be at a position which they're no longer bound by the restrictions of the ocean and all that. So at that point, it's already quite scary, because maybe the last stand is North America while the rest of the world falls to China. I don't think Canada and the United States want to be in that position to begin with. So it's very important to stop China at its first step, which is to stop the invasion of Taiwan.
And well, I mean, it's the moral thing to do. If
Yeah.
if people have an independent state and they don't want to be invaded, I think it would be the moral thing to at least stand up for them, like we did in other situations in Europe in the 1940s, for example. I mean,
I was
oh, go ahead.
So I went to the Netherlands last year, and World War II, Canadians fought to liberate Holland, and the people in the Netherlands are very appreciative of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Canadians are not known to shy away from. We might not have the biggest military, but it's the effort that has contributed to keeping the peace around the world. I think that to a lot of people is Canadians especially. I think it's very important. I heard from this is from an American general. He says that the U.S. hates a bully. That whenever there's somebody who is out there trying to do something to cause harm to others, the U.S. will step up. And I'd say Canadians are along that line as well. Usually now in modern times, stepping along the line with the United States and others. So I think this, like you said, Clyde, is a global situation. So we shouldn't think that in Canada we can somehow get away with it by just participating in this, because it actually is an interest, I think, that matter to everyone around the world, not just to the U.S. or Taiwan or who not. There's shipping interests, there's economic, technological interests. A lot of that is interest for Canada as well.
That's the thing. So like we had the Cold War, and that was the war against the communist ideology. And the interesting thing to look at with that is that we called it over when the Soviet Union fell, but the communist regime didn't stop in the Soviet Union. It continued on in China, and we've been having a Cold War ever since, really. And we've been giving up a lot of our things. We've had politicians kind of selling us up Schitt's Creek to China for decades and decades. I know the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a big part of that for a long time. I remember people on both sides of the aisle saying this is a bad idea. What are we doing? And I think that all ended with Trump. That was kind of another good thing about Trump. We were talking about the goods and the bads about Trump earlier in the show, but I think that was definitely a good. Now it's funny because I talk about globalism, but like, we are part of a global society in so much that we trade with each other, and I think trade is a great way of being able to communicate with other countries if we can trade freely amongst each other. It's these free trade agreements. They're not very free in trade at all. NAFTA and the FTAA that came afterwards, and then the Trans-Pacific Partnership. These are all really bad ideas for the average Joe, average business owner, that kind of thing. It's like a conglomerate thing that benefits mostly just big players. But yeah, actually, absolutely, it's a big thing. Economically, to want to trade with China, but also be very cautious of what they're doing strategically in the world, and what kind of plays they're trying to play out in the long run, because it's really not working out in our benefit what we've been doing. But at the same time, China's hurting. So how has this been working out? Because this is like the narrative kind of pops for me. People are telling me China's a big bad guy. They're growing. They're going to be a superpower. And then I'm also hearing that China's economy is in the tanks. They can't keep their government together. They're having a hard time even having their police state. Police states cost too much money. They'll never be able to afford to do this. So which direction is it actually going in? Is it bound for collapse, or is it a superpower in the waiting?
I think it's bound for collapse. It's very simply, if you look at it like this, right? So what I mentioned about the economy a while ago, that was all just kind of the objective reasons. But subjectively, I personally think there's a big the reason why the CCP was able to sustain its power is because people are scared of it, right? They kill people, they persecute religious groups, they attack humanity. But what they're really scared of is actually truth. You find this with any attempts with like socialism around the world. Is the first thing they do is they hide the truth, right? You talk with a socialist, they ignore the truth, or
Well,
they
they'll tell
pretend
you
like
you're
it
not
doesn't.
allowed to talk about that. You're not allowed to talk about
Exactly.
this or
Yeah.
that, and they shut you down.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I say the best way for China to resist or to revolutionize isn't through a violent means. It's through understanding the truth. Because once you do, and more people, I'm actually grateful for the internet and all this information availability today, because once you know the truth, you no longer believe in the cause of the government. And you see that today with the younger people in China. They just simply decided that we're not going to do anything to contribute to your cause, because we know your cause was built on a system of lie and it doesn't benefit me. And so once you realize and so that's, I think, will also push to a lot of the economic issues to surface. Um, so going to the question here, China always wants to appear like they're the big bad guys, this massive monster from the East. But every time they do, Xi Jinping has done something that caused it to backfire. For example, the economy is bad, right? Instead of just letting it be, letting the market sort itself out, Xi says the opposite. Xi Jinping goes, we're going to put up 200 regulations for the private industry. That's clearly going to help us get the economy back on running. And then the market doesn't respond the way that he wants to be, because obviously the more control you have, the worse it becomes.
Yeah, absolutely. The
so-
regulation is what causes the economy to stifle. So if they regulate the market, it becomes less economical for people to. I mean, it already costs a lot of money to ship products, like raw products, over to China across the sea, and then for them to manufacture it cheaply and then send it back. So I mean, if it costs more money to make the stuff, people will stop shipping it over and shipping it back. Like, that's really at the end of the day. And a lot of people are going to other countries. They're going to India. They're going to parts of Africa to have this stuff made, and they're building up industry in these other areas. The one thing that was the big economic driver, which was cheap labor, is no longer a thing in China unless they crack down on their people again. Do you think that the people have the wherewithal to deal with another crackdown on and a lowering of their living standards?
The interesting thing is, so everybody thought that, living in the Mao's period, right? Like you didn't have your own place, your property, you ate at communes, you work in farms and stuff. That people were going to be satisfied by moving towards this like new society where they get to live in luxury homes, drive cars, and all of that. Right? But then what I've noticed now is today, when you take that away, again, people start to blame you, right? It's very simple. It's like if you give somebody candy for 40 years and then you suddenly say, okay, we're not going to give you candy anymore. They're going to be like really angry about this, right?
Where's my
And
candy?
so
Yeah.
now you see all this anger about Xi Jinping because people think that he's the one that took away all the candy. But I think that's just the natural way of communism because I mean, you're not supposed to taste the candy in communism. You're supposed to own nothing and be happy about it. So she's actually walking it back to the this purebred communism idea. What really took place in that 40 years of the reform and opening up, it's over. It was a dream period, so to speak, to like I said, to make sure that people in China don't think about this political stuff, right? But Xi Jinping came in 2012, and he's like, forget about that. We're gonna do Mao stuff again because I think that's you're taking this too far. This reform and opening up, we gotta go back to Mao. So
Well, that's the worst thing that could happen.
yeah, but the question you asked, Clyde, it's are people gonna put up with that? I don't think people are putting up with it today. But the only thing is they can't openly criticize it. They're just doing it silently. But everybody's talking about hating on CP today, like among themselves, obviously, even posting online sometimes. So I think once you take that candy away, people are going to be very mad.
So it's interesting. Like the Soviet Union fell apart because they stretched themselves too thin and they couldn't police it anymore. people grew cynical about the fact that people would say they pretend to regulate us and we pretend to be regulated, right? They didn't care anymore. It became a joke, and the black market soon became the gray market, which soon became the okay, we're not going to go after you, just trade, and then that was the inevitable doom of it. It all just kind of fell apart once they stopped being able to finance it. Does China look like it's going in that direction, or do you see the collapse of the Chinese communism going in a different direction? And do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel for China?
Yes, I do think there is a light at the end of the tunnel. What I think, so the lesson from the Soviet Union for the CCP was to never abandon the ideological side of things, even if you give up the market side of things, right? So, no, I just mentioned under the reform and opening up, they were loose and relaxed on the economic stuff, but the ideological stuff was still very much intact, right? That's really what led to 1989 because people thought they also were relaxing the ideology, but clearly not. They
were not,
killed protesters instead. But with the way that I see how the CCP will collapse is I think at this point, because Xi Jinping has concentrated so much power and he has amassed so much control under himself, the only way is if he somehow dies or that he's removed from power, that there is a change in the system. I don't see that there's going to be a violent revolution that takes place, much like how the Soviet Union kind of, at the end of the day, it kind of just destroyed itself. Obviously, there's a lot of factors, right? There's the Cold War, there's that, but the economy is a big one. But I don't see it happening purely from an economic way. But I do think that it still comes from within the party. And I think that 20 years ago, people weren't ready, and the Chinese people weren't ready because there was that reliance aspect they had built. But today, because there's no longer that reliance on the CCP, I think people are completely ready for a change. So I think, Chinese people talk about this three elements of change, right? There has to be divine timing. There has to be this on the ground event, and then there has to be people's harmony in the ways of. So all three elements has to come into one place for this change to happen. And so, I mean, the Chinese history, if you read through any of it, it's like at the end of a dynasty, just you see the most bizarre and chaotic. Many people say this is like the end of the Qing dynasty. It's just the most bizarre stuff happening in China. So I talk a lot about the weird stuff happening in Chinese society.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like that. I think so. I see this happening quite quickly. I'm not going to put a number down. People are going to be
you
like,
can't predict
David,
these things
you
now.
said 5 years and it didn't come by or something like that. But yeah, I think it's very quick.
But with Xi, I mean, he's in an unprecedented third term. This is a thing. Even though it's a communism, there's no choice. Apparently, there's elections and terms, but he's in an unprecedented third term. He seems to be even more dictatorial than anyone since Mao, and he wants to be the next Mao. Character like this, don't you think he would supernova in that scenario if he's losing his power and he feels like it's going to be lost? That he would use all of his resources to lash out some way. What do you think might happen there?
The interesting thing I noticed about whether the Stalin or Mao was that until they died, the period of terror really never ended, right? I think that's also the same that's going to apply to Xi. In fact, even though we say that this is unprecedented in a third term, really every CCP leader, they've ruled for life until their death. For example, Mao was in power basically, and the Cultural Revolution was in place until he died in 1976. Deng, after him, was basically still in power even after he sort of resigned for until I think 93, and then Jiang after as well. For even after his 10 years, he still held on to his military power position, and then so on. So I I always say, sure, Xi Jinping is in a third term, perhaps even a fourth term. And I just say that we should look at the way that he's running the country, like you mentioned, like Mao. So I think we should look to his death as the end point for his thing. I don't know if he's going to do a supernova because, in my view, right now, inside the party, there's a growing opposition. Everybody's afraid of him, and everybody is looking for some ways to not get into his like circle. So to avoid being purged, right? He's purged like 20, 30 generals already, and then many officials. So I think
That's not
there's
a good sign of a leader to
it's
be
not a good sign.
yeah.
Exactly. It's actually a sign of instability in a way. It's like stability on the outside, but really instability on the inside. So I think until his death, there will be a lot of turmoil. But I don't see a supernova, so to speak, moment where he kills millions of people. Not today, I don't think.
But you say about how unstable he is, and I would even go to state of paranoid at that point if he's purging so many people. That could explain a lot of why he's put out satellite police stations across the world to police Chinese expats, like nationals that have left China to live elsewhere. I mean, we have this happening in Canada. I can't speak to other countries where this is taking place, but I've been covering it for what's been happening in Canada. And we've been hearing reports of these illegal police stations where they have CCP members that have been literally knocking on people's doors and intimidating them, telling them that, you have to go back to face charges or else we're gonna go after your family that's still in China, this kind of thing. Can you tell me anything about that?
Yeah, so the nature of the police station is they're not technically police officers, but they carry out the orders of Chinese government which is very interesting, right? Because they're operating on what is the sovereignty of that particular country. So in the case of Canada, yet they can do this for a very long time. So it goes back to my argument that there's a huge coercive reliance factor, sorry, in that they know that by creating reliance, like you have family back home, you're going to listen to what I want you to do. So they've done this. They've basically turned people into involuntary spies for the government because they say that if you want to continue to have your family be safe in China, you got to do this for me. Uh, they're connected with the local organizations, so they do counter protests, right? They do, if there's like a demonstration for some peace movement in China, you'll see the other side with the banners with the Chinese flags supporting. You saw this in San
It's
Francisco.
put on by these groups.
Yep, you saw the mass mobilization. You see all these people with the flags and stuff.
So I take strong exception to this, because if anybody comes to Canada fleeing a country like China because they want to escape it and they want to get out of it, and then we have government officials that do nothing about this kind of activity taking place on our own soil. We should be doing everything to protect these individuals. If you want to come to Canada and become Canadian, you are a Canadian. Like there's no like, well, he's Chinese, so there's no gray area for me. If you came here to escape that, there is no place for CCP members to come and intimidate any Canadian citizen, any Canadian person here, and to see that they've been just kind of allowed to exist, allowed to operate under the radar, even though this is all being picked up by CSIS, our intelligence services, all of this, but yet we have a government who, the allegations are that they've been infiltrated themselves, are allowing for this to take place. Now, this is horrendous. This is, it's beyond the pale. It's a foreign government operating on on somebody else's soil. Like, what is the, because you speak to more Chinese people, more Chinese expats, nationals. What's the going consensus on how this is taking place?
Because I'm in the U.S. now, so I'll just speak to what I know about the first case, right, which was the one in Manhattan, the police station. The reason why, particularly in New York, this can thrive, this police station, is because a lot of the Chinese immigrants, they come to the U.S., right? They don't incorporate themselves into the general society. They sort of stay together with the Chinese immigrants, still maintaining a lot of that like mainland China identity, speaking Chinese, living in like Chinatown, these type of places. They need a lot of help, and that's when these police stations, they will prey on them because they rely on them to do things like passport service, ID service, and then even things like connecting back home to their bank accounts, banking, and all
these things. Are you talking
things.
the official embassies are doing this?
No, the police station.
Because the embassy would be taking care of your passport and stuff. Are they? I'm confused on that.
So, a lot of these police stations are tied to a province back in China. For example, the one in Manhattan is tied to the Fujian province. So they're very specific with a part of a China, which in China, the police station for that particular area is the liaison office, or sorry, the one in Manhattan is the liaison office of the police station in China. So when they're basically trying to handle their own district's people living in overseas, but that's not the only role that they play. The role they also play is they do like harassments and counter protests. They work with the embassy. they do much more than that, right? They harass people, they try to silence dissidents, all of these things. But the base for them doing that is there's a group of people that need them to help establish all these things because they're connected back home. But I was talking to people in the Chinese immigration circle there in New York. They're tied to a lot of things. Like there's like assassination, high profile coercion, infiltration, particularly into the local groups and things like that. They all have traces back to this police station.
That's awful. That's absolutely awful. Yeah. So, I mean, these are the stories that get buried. There's not a lot of talk about them in mainstream media. These are the kind of stories I want to, because when you hear this stuff, this is where a lot of animosity comes from between you want to say ethnic groups, but national groups. My wife's Japanese, so I know full well that there's a Japanese community. Anytime that there's a group that comes from another nation, you get together with other people. I lived in Japan for a while. I got to know all the other white guys. What I mean? It's just a thing. You kind of see each other, like, hey, but you speak English. So it is a thing. It's hard not to gravitate towards like individuals and become part of those communities. And then, day-to-day life, it's hard, it's easier to just talk your native tongue than it is to do. I get that. It creates animosity, but then it also breeds this kind of exploitative behavior from bad individuals, obviously Chinese officials that are behaving bad, and they're exploiting this kind of thing. And I don't know what else to say to it other than to encourage people to try their best to get out of these enclaves. If you go to another country to live your life, and you find yourself hanging around with mostly people of your ethnic origin, try to get out, branch out, and communicate with the larger society. It'd probably do you wonders, and you might not get exploited by groups like this. But is there anything else you wanted to add? Because this is I mean, I could keep talking to you for probably hours about all of this stuff because it's interesting to me, and I only have so much information. You obviously have so much more knowledge on this stuff, but I want to encourage people to go over the website, over to your YouTube channel, because it's funny. It's such a serious conversation that we're having here, but you bring a lot more humor to these stories on your channel, and that's what gravitated me towards you. I like the way you present the stuff. It's not always so like, wow, this is horrible. There's a lot of humor to it. There's a lot of fun. You do amazing shorts, and you do them quite frequently. So I definitely want to encourage people to go over there. But before we end the live stream, because we are running out of time here, is there anything else you wanted to add for the audience, for people that are just getting into this whole side of looking at China, separating it between Communist Party, Chinese people, and relationships around the world kind of thing?
I would say at this point, just come and enjoy the wild ride we have. Like you said, I sometimes it's even bizarre to me what I have to speak out of my mouth about what's happening in China. The latest one I did was they were doing like a competition with a tourism in China, just a bunch of bizarre stuff. Anyways, I just want to say, it's a fun topic because you get to learn the complexity of another side of the world. At the same time, I'm learning a lot of my own heritage as well. At the same time, learning about the politics side of things. So if that interests you, come check out my channel. And I appreciate this opportunity with Clyde and to come and chat with you about this. So appreciate that.
Absolutely. Hang on the line after we end the stream. I'll chat with you a bit further, but we'll just end the stream here real quick. I got a couple of more super chats I got to get through before we end off the stream here. We got making sure I get all the ones from before. Okay, so Steve's Hyde says $2 super chat. Taiwan is an example of what China could have been. That is actually very true. Without the communism, it could have been quite a great place. I'm never going to pronounce this correctly. So J Visuals, I think it is, with a $10 super chat, and it's just a sticker. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Penny D with a $20 super chat. This will not buy much. This is so you and Marty can have a smell of someone else's drink. Thank you so much for that. We'll be doing that in the next week when I'm in Calgary. Carla with a $5 super chat. I watched China's show with Lawai 86 and Serpenza. They talk about these same things. Do you know their channel over there, Lawai 86 and Serpenza?
Yeah, I've watched their stuff for a long time. So I do.
Are they fairly accurate on their assessment of what's going on in China?
Yeah, I think so. I think they mostly focus on the social aspects. I do a little bit more on the political side of things. Because they lived in China, so a lot of the stuff they say, like, when I hear it, that's pretty resonates with my own experience. So I do think that they're pretty dead on with all the stuff that they do.
Oh, perfect. I really enjoy what they put out on YouTube. A lot of good stuff, and they do very consistent channel. Very, very consistent posting. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight, and David Zang, thank you so much for joining me as well. I hope everybody goes over to China Insider, check out the channel. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. Hit that notification bell, and you'll get all the videos. And I want to thank everybody again. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for everybody who gave us good wishes for the Calgary trip, and the super chats to help us out for buying a couple of wobbly pops while we're out there. Thanks everybody again. We'll see you all on Monday, and as always, keep on trekking.